Good afternoon, all of you. I think we are discussing the thinkers. Okay. Yes, Indian scholars we are discussing. So in that, the Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi, we are discussing, and some of the themes we have seen. आवाज बढ़ा देना जरा. So I think we have discussed the truth, non-violence, satyagraha, then principle of means and ends, need and greed, Swaraj, Ramraj. Okay, these are the aspects we have discussed already. Now, I think constructive program of Gandhi we were discussing. So, right, the constructive program of Gandhi. Yes, anybody has any idea what was this constructive program? What he used to do basically? Work for weaker section. Cottage industries. Yes, see, the thing is, if you see the whole aspect of Gandhian strategy, okay, this was a struggle to struggle. Okay, ST, okay, so STS, etc. This is called as struggle, truce, struggle strategy. Now, during this, if you see this struggle, truce, struggle, these aspects, these were the politically active periods of his life, where here we have, yes, 1920 non-cooperative movement, okay, 1929 civil disobedience movement, 42 quit India movement, okay. Now this was the time where you see the lean period of political activity, okay, lean period or the passive period of political activity. Passive in political sense, okay, obviously it was not a passive from the social and economic aspect. Okay, from political side, okay, this were the struggle movement, and from political side, this was a passive time or the lean period. Now, during this lean period, he used to resort to this constructive program. Okay, this was a part where he used to lean to the constructive program. Now, this constructive program, there were reasons why he used to go for this. Okay, history हुआ है यहाँ तक? हाँ, हो गया? Okay. One of the reason, like he knew that it was essentially a mass movement, okay, and mass movement cannot be like continued with the same fervor and pitch for a long period of time. Okay, everybody cannot be a Bhagat Singh for that matter till the time one die, one continue to fight. So what we expect is that there will be an phases of exhaustion within the masses. So there is need to take a pause so as to re-energize themselves. So this was one of the reason, like it was a mass movement, and the mass movement is essentially something which cannot be continued with same fervor and pitch for a long period of time. Apart from that, that's only one reason. Okay, rest reason, in fact, his understanding was this, that Britisher is one of the enemy. Okay, it's not like tomorrow if we take an independence, everything will going to resolve the problems. Like India will become a very strong nation, etc., etc. In fact, he used to say that, are we really worthy of independence? Because if tomorrow Britishers will go, then the country will get divided amongst different divides existing in the society. So he identified there are problems with the Indian societies, there are enemies within us also, and these, unless and until these divides, we plug those divides, okay, we cannot think of like making a strong state. So he was preparing against these social evils, so that there should be an end of social evils and social divides, so that country should be a strong one. A third reason was, since the enemy, Britishers, were strong, most of the times they resort to this divide and rule policy in order to make the enemies weak. So, in fact, again, by assaulting on the different divides, okay, he was trying to unify the public, unify the different section of society into the fold, so that the society or the Indian side will be a more stronger force against the British Empire. Okay, so there are various reasons. Again, what we see that his spiritual and the social aspect, he never considered Swaraj only from the political point of view. He considered the Swaraj from the social point of view, spiritual point of view, cultural point of view, that we need to be a strong in every sphere. So that's why he has adopted to this particular strategy of struggle to struggle. Now, for us, for ethical class, what is more important is not the reason. That's a part of your history class. But a constructive program is the one where we get the glimpses of Gandhi as a social reformer. Okay, what are the things that he has taken? So here, where we see that Gandhi as a social reformer, and what are the different features of constructive program, from that you can make it out what are the social and other aspects that he has taken into account. So you can write the issues that have been dealt by the Gandhi within constructive program. Okay, different issues that were focused by Gandhiji under the constructive program. So first one is Hindu-Muslim unity. Hindu-Muslim unity. So in bracket you can write religious and cultural tolerance. Okay, so he was focusing upon tolerance as a value, cultural and religious tolerance. In fact, this was one of the most important policy of Britishers, divide and rule. Okay, right from promoting the Sir Syed Ahmed Khan, okay, to creation of Muslim League, and then over a period of time. Okay, so this policy was consciously adopted, and therefore Gandhi knew that if the Indians were divided amongst themselves on the communal lines, okay, that will going to threaten the that getting the Swaraj. Okay, so one was Hindu-Muslim unity, and therefore he was preaching the religious and the cultural tolerance. Second is with respect to ending the untouchability. Okay, ending caste discrimination. Okay, to be specific, that is, yes, untouchability. Ending the untouchability. This is famously called as his Harijan campaign. Okay, Harijan campaign. Now here we see that Harijan, the word is Hari is, what is Harijan? That is the children of God. Okay, mostly when the four Varna system was there, he thought that the dignity is an important issue for the untouchables. So their job is being recognized as not a very dignified job. And when somebody will call it like a Harijan, children of God, so naturally he wanted to say that there is a sacredness in every human being. And when we say about untouchables, they are not untouchables, but they are the children of God. और इंडिया में वो ज़्यादा बातें जल्दी समझ में आती है कि चिल्ड्रन ऑफ गॉड, फिर कोई मतलब डेयर नहीं करता है कि गॉड के चिल्ड्रन को कैसे तो हम untouchable कह दें. Okay, so he was quite smart enough in invoking the religious sentiments, okay, whenever it was required. Third thing is, okay, working against the, working for women empowerment. Working for women empowerment. Or for that matter, ending the gender discrimination. Working for the women empowerment. Or for gender equality. Gender equality. In fact, he was the one when the women started participating in the freedom struggle. Okay, so truly a mass movement it becomes when the women started participating. So related with women empowerment and women participation. Next, fourth is the divide which was there between rich and poor. So you can rate that component as a sarvodaya. Okay. Next component is. We will discuss. First, right, sarvodaya. Sarvodaya and antodaya. Sarvodaya is a upliftment of all. Sarva and uday. Sarva means sabhi, all. Uday is upliftment. Upliftment of all, that is a sarvodaya. अंत्योदया. सी सर्वोदया का ही एक कंपोनेंट है अंत्योदया. ओके, अंत्योदया मतलब the one poorest of upliftment of poorest of poor, weakest of the weak, poorest of the poor, the last person in a row. Okay, the last person or the people who are. See, when we say that sarvodaya, obviously focus of attention has to be on the weaker section. अब अदानी और अंबानी का उदय क्या करोगे? वो तो ऑलरेडी उदय हो चुका है उनका, मतलब उनका तो मतलब कहीं पे सन सेट ही नहीं होगा. तो जिनका उदय नहीं हुआ है तो concentration should be on the those people who do not have the resources. That is the weakest section. So in fact, these four things, if you see very deeper analysis, you will understand that four divides that generally exist in Indian society: communal divide, caste divide, gender divide, and rich and poor divide. He has almost attacked economic divide. So he was almost attacked on each one of them during his constructive program, that religious harmony, caste discrimination, gender equality, and the rich and poor, that is through the Sarvodaya, Antodaya, his things. Now, in fact, this is the Sarvodaya is his component of socialism. In socialism, what we have discussed, if you remember that attitude class mein bataya tha, left and right and socialism. Socialism is for the equality. That is different, removing the differences between rich and poor. Now there can be different variants of socialism. So Gandhian variant of socialism is, in fact, what the Karl Marx has said, that worker class should wage a war against the capitalist class, revolutionary means to establish the socialism, which was a violent socialism. For Gandhi, nothing can be violent, as you cannot use the violent means in order to bring even the equality. Now, in this case, there is always a comparison with respect to Karl Marx and Gandhi, that for both of them, the objective was same, that is ending the economic discrimination and establishing the equality. But Marx has gone for the violent method, and Gandhi has gone for the non-violent method. And his non-violent method, what she has said, that is a theory of trusteeship, although not important for you, but theory of trusteeship is making an appeal to the moral conscience of capitalist class, that they are not the owners of property, but they are the trustees of property. Caretaker of property. That, see how win-win situation can be created. Karl Marx says that you have to attack on them and go for the violence. He said that appeal to the moral conscience and make them realize that they are not the real owners and trustees or the caretakers. So unme ek sense of belief bhi rahega ki we are the caretaker, we are the trustee, we own the although not owning the property, but still we hold the property in some other way. We regulate, we control. But at the same time, those property is not their, they do not own, but it should be used for the public purpose. Okay, so he was trying to reconcile the difference between rich and poor by making an appeal to the moral conscience of a rich class that this property should be distributed among the or redistributed among the public. So this is how this was again the sort of continuity between the means and end. That means should be equally good or the non-violent as that of the end. So that is a Sarvodaya. Through the Sarvodaya, in fact, if you see post-independence mein you will witness this, particularly this land reform, okay, and there was a Vinoba Bhave. So Vinoba Bhave actually, yes, walking length and breadth of the India and appealing to the rich class in order to distribute their surplus land. And much of the land has been grabbed through this appeal to the moral conscience, through the Vinoba Bhave's this. In fact, his movement itself is known as Sarvodaya movement. Okay, this Sarvodaya movement through which he was making an appeal to the moral conscience, and then the surplus value is distributed into the weaker section of the society. So have you understood? So rich and poor, gender equality, caste discrimination, and Hindu. Now write the fifth one. Fifth one is again from economic point of view, that is focus on Swadeshi. Okay, focus on Swadeshi. Swadeshi or self-sufficiency of village. Oblique करके लिखो. Self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency of village. Village. This involved. Yes, क्या था इसमें? Village level industry and then khadi, yes, charkha, etc. So this involves the focus on village-based industry, khadi. In fact, one of the component you see in case of his satyagraha was non-cooperation. Okay, non-cooperation essentially was a boycott. So how will you do the boycott if you are not self-sufficient? Okay, there is practically not possibility when you are not having a resource of your own and then saying that you will boycott the different goods. So naturally, the boycott will be more effective when you are self-sufficient. So that is how his component of self-sufficiency and decentralized level of industries, etc. Okay. So next is obviously some of the social things like a ban on the intoxicants, liquor. Next is ban on intoxicants or liquor. Thanks to the dry day, 2nd October. Okay. मुन्ना भाई देखा है, वो पूछते हैं कि वाई 2nd October इज अ ड्राई डे, तो बोलता है कि एक हाँ था मतलब गांधी नाम का पर्सन. सो यस, जो 500 के नोट के ऊपर है कौन गांधी है, एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा. In fact, if you see, Gandhi was himself inspired by the Buddhism and Jainism a lot. I have said in the last class also. And in there also we have seen the Buddhist, one of the principle of don'ts में, prohibition में लिखा था कि do not consume the intoxicant. The whole component was to keep oneself alert and conscious. So Gandhi also never wanted that there is a dissipation of energy of the youth or masses, because we have larger objectives of getting independence, we have larger objectives or controlling the evils of society. So in this manner, we need to unify ourselves, always alert, conscious, rational, okay, mindfulness, and therefore he asked for this particular sort of thing that youth should not indulge into it. In fact, there was a component of women empowerment into it also, because this has attracted the women component into the folds of freedom struggle, because the problems of this liquor and etc. And how it played the role in case of women empowerment, that's also understood by various things that he has addressed. So केवल ऐसे नहीं है कि एक से related है, it has a various impacts also. Next is focus on sanitation. Focus on sanitation or cleanliness. These days we have this Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Again, this Gandhian values is being uploaded. That is focus on cleanliness. Focus on cleanliness or focus on sanitation. He used to say cleanliness is next only to the godliness. These toilets are the modern temples. In fact, here also there is a component with respect to untouchability, because there is a more focus on the sanitation, and they say that the status of the untouchables should yes, follow this practice of cleanliness, okay, so as to get out of this tag of undignified work and etc. So there are mixed components, but yes, cleanliness is an important aspect of his part. Okay, so these are some of the things. And political component, obviously, if during the constructive program, like in form of Panchayati Raj institution that he has papered, but we have taken it otherwise. That's more about the socio-economic parts you have to see. So I hope the points are clear. Okay, this is about the social justice. This is about the socialism, equality. This is about self-sufficiency of village, and a lot of other social evils that were prevalent during the time of freedom struggle, and he wanted to address. So Gandhi as a social reformist, and although he was separately addressing the things from their own point of view, like caste should end, communal intolerance should end, women empowerment should be there, because he was defining the Swaraj not at country level but also at individual level. And at individual level, Swaraj is every person is capable of ruling himself. So therefore, first there should be end of all discrimination, and then there should be a self-rule. So there are absolute things also why he was doing it. It has its moral basis, but at the same time, he also knew that if this problems will get resolved, then the freedom struggle against the Britishers will also be more easy. And few analysts say that in fact Gandhi was more worried about division as an hurdle against the enemies. That's why it is being said that he was, whether he was a saint who was trying to become a politician, or he was a politician who was trying to become a saint. So this was a saintliness. But then some people say that this saintliness was for this, okay, for the Britishers. And if you see this, then he become a politician, and here it becomes a saint. So this is where we see. But anyways, that's not the point. Point is, it was a well-articulated strategy, and it's a part of a struggle through struggle. So that's a point about the Gandhi and his aspect of constructive program. In fact, you can quote this various things whenever the case study related with different divides are there. Now, yes, what is remaining from the Gandhi list of the things which I have mentioned? Is there anything? गांधी स्थलिस पर उसमें कुछ नहीं है, वो बस आप रीड कर लो, एनसीईआरटी में है. Just I'll mention what it is. He said that whenever you are in confusion, okay, that whenever you feel that there is a moral dilemma for you, what action should I take? So he has provided the test that how to get. Yes, that's the thing. So you think about the poorest of poor person, and then see that whatever the action that you are going to take, it is going to help the poorest of poor. Okay, and if it is going to help positively, then go ahead with that particular step. So that is a mantra, okay, sort of a mantra. Whenever you are in dilemma and whenever you want to take an action, think of the weakest person of the country and whether your action is going to help in that particular perspective. Okay, so that's the Gandhi's talisman or Gandhi's this thing. You can use this whenever you, like empathy and compassion. It's a more a component of empathy and compassion. Then yes, what is remaining? हाँ, अम्बेडकर एज ए थिंकर. गांधी के लिस्ट में कुछ बाकी है क्या, पूछ रहा हूँ. लिस्ट ही नहीं मिल रही है. कहाँ लिस्ट, कौन सी लिस्ट? अरे हाँ, हाउ? हाँ, 7 sins of Gandhi. Okay, we will see that. हाँ, yes. Caste discrimination. Okay, yes, you can see the whole Harijan campaign. The whole Harijan campaign, he has established All India Untouchability Federation. Then he has traveled length and breadth of the India. He was appealing to the conservative Hindu elements. In fact, he has said that if the Hindu Hinduism has to survive, then the caste discrimination should die. And if the caste discrimination will not die, then Hinduism will not survive. Okay. So again, यहाँ पे भी जो conservative and traditional element है. Okay. In fact, those conservative elements were opposing this aspect of bringing the equality within the Hindu, because they were saying that the caste is a reality. In fact, you have to able to differentiate between the varna and the caste. Okay, from his point of view, the varna system, which I have mentioned in some other class, was a professional classification, which was a pre-Vedic time में, Vedic, post-Vedic और pre-Vedic जो two parts है. So pre-Vedic time में क्या था, जो Varna system था, which was eventually become a caste system. So Varna system was a fourfold division, but that division was a flexible one. It was a professional. So you may born in one Varna, but then based upon your performance, your aspirations, you can go into the other also system. This was a pre-Vedic time. In post-Vedic time, what has happened? This fourfold classification first became rigid. Then it becomes hierarchical. Hierarchical, the status was attached. Brahmin, then Kshatriya, then Vaishya, then Shudra. So it becomes a hierarchy. So hierarchy जहाँ आएगा वहाँ पे status आ जाएगा. So this become hierarchy. This become a status-based classification. This become a rigid, that you cannot. There is no flexibility. You cannot transfer from one to another. So the caste become an ascriptive criteria. Ascriptive means what is by birth. You will die in that particular caste only. So this rigidity was followed because the point was the profession now got the different tags. This is a superior, this is inferior, this is more and more inferior, etc., etc. So what essentially Gandhi has said, there are different functions and professions which obviously will going to be there. Okay, one cannot say that all people will do one particular job. So obviously functional classification and profession will be there. What is problem with the system is, now we started saying that this profession is superior and this caste is superior and this profession is inferior and therefore this caste is inferior. So that attaching the status to the different things is something we should resist. And therefore he said that role or the work of a farmer is equal to that of the beggar, and work of a lawyer is equal to that of the other people in the society. So in fact, in this context, he has said that all professions are equal and all professions should enjoy the same dignity, because every profession has its functional significance to serve. Okay, the job of the barber is same as the job of the lawyer. Okay, so he was trying to put the professional equality into the field. So essentially the problem he has thought in the system is not with the occupational division. The problem is with respect to the importance that one attach and how one has an attitude to look towards a different profession. So in this component, the caste system, what he was talking about is basically this is a rigidity that has been incurred in the post-Vedic time. So what is required is not like abolishing this. Many times this is there is a debate in between Ambedkar and Gandhi, and Ambedkar was more radical and Gandhi was more reformist. Radical in a sense that for Gandhi, it was like the problem was not with the division of labor, the problem was with the dignity. And in case of Ambedkar, he understood that this particular situation of changing the mindset has gone, and unless and until we break down the system and create the new, things are not going to change. Okay, so essentially again both of them are working for the equality, but the thing is approach was different. So if you see Karl Marx, he was a more violent. If Ambedkar abolished the caste system and bring out the new system, and if you see the Gandhi, he was actually pointing out what is the problem, not with the functional division, but with the attachment of dignity. So three of them will have a different approaches in order to reach to the same goal of equality. Okay, so that's the thing. Yes, now, yes, 7 sins, you can just write whether the 7 sins of Gandhi mat likho. Okay, he has articulated. Yes, what are these 7 aspects, different aspects? Science without humanity is one. Okay, thanks to philosophy option. Or that is it. Commerce without morality. Okay, start with politics without principles. Politics without principles. Then right, the wealth without work. Politics without principles, the wealth without work, the pleasure without conscience, pleasure without conscience, then commerce without ethics, morality, commerce without morality, science without religion or ethics. एक ही है, मतलब सभी एक, ये जो ब्रैकेट है all are related with the ethical principles, the terms which are used. Science without ethics लिखो. Then which was how many are there? 5. और कौन सा था? हाँ, knowledge without character. Knowledge without character. Yes, one more. What is it? Okay, just leave it. I'll. कौन सा लिखा है? Politics, wealth, pleasure, conscience. No. No. Not. Okay, just leave it for a while. Okay, I'll explain that. Okay, anyways, so right now Ambedkar. I think religion के बारे में क्या लिखा है? Okay, right, हाँ. Worship without sacrifice. Worship without sacrifice. In fact, all rest of the जो second column में जो points दिए वो all ethics, मतलब in general synonymous with all ethical and moral principles. So if you do not follow ethical and moral principle in rest of the left side hand side column, so all are the sort of a sin. In fact, into some of the questions have been asked also, like in 2013 there was a question, politics without ethics. Okay, can politics and withouts do not go hand in hand? What is your viewpoint? And can they go hand in hand? So this was the question. So politics without ethics. So in any case, you have to write in two ways. Like if it is divided off the second part, what can happen? Like say for example, politics without ethics. So there is a possibility of misuse of power, criminalization of politics, corruption, nepotism, etc., etc. And therefore it has to be complemented by ethics. Wealth without this, money without this, or commerce without this, science without this. So what is the right hand side column is ethical and moral principles. Okay. So right, next. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. In fact, he can be summed in this one line: wise of voiceless. We have discussed some of the themes, and we should fit him into that particular theme. That is with respect to first, socio-economic justice. In fact, the whole point of his life was, that is, weaker section, upliftment of weaker section of society. Upliftment of weaker section of society. So some of the terms that we have used, I'm again writing: socio-economic justice and positive discrimination. Positive discrimination, or sometimes the word protective discrimination is also used. Protective discrimination. Protective discrimination, particularly the protection of weaker section of the society from the dominant one. Action, yes, क्या term थे? Affirmative. Affirmative action. Principle of equity. So in socio-economic sphere, okay, these are the terms which can be used. So all the discussions that we have taken for the equity, affirmative action, so everything is applied to the Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. In fact, throughout his life, he was fighting for the weaker section of the society. That's the one point broadly. So I hope there is no need of repeating the same thing. Okay, what is an equity? That is a distribution on the basis of the need. Okay, so that's the principle for the socio-economic justice. Second important is he has focused upon the modern education. Modern education. In fact, he used to say that education is a leveler. Okay, the gap in between rich and poor. So one of the means that weaker section of the society, or those who are the left off section, excluded section, for them the education is the tool through which they can uplift their status. Okay, education as a leveler, and modern education is important. Then third, with respect to, he was also a religious reform on modern ground, on modern lines. Modern lines in a sense that more rational. In fact, his attempt, that is a Hindu code bill. In fact, what we talk today, that is a uniform civil code, the first attempt was this Hindu code bill. Okay. In fact, we fail to understand when we speak about the uniform civil code, we discuss about different codes that exist with different religion. But within one religion also there are different codes, okay, because of discrimination. There are different sections of society in one particular religion, and therefore for different section, different codes existed. And Hindu code bill was an attempt. So what were the prevalent discriminatory practices which were there? So he wanted to remove those discriminatory things within the Hinduism, and this was codified in the form of Hindu code bill. Bill इसलिए लिखा गया, although it has become an act, but not the way the Ambedkar wanted. Although Nehru was putting a weight behind the Hindu code bill, he was also modernist, rationalist, and his views and Ambedkar views were coincided on the Hindu code bill. But then the conservative elements within the Congress, particularly those conservative and traditional Hindu, they have refuted it tooth and nail. And this was the time where the Ambedkar has resigned as a law minister, and then he in fact came out of the Hindu fold and embraced the Buddhism. One of the most important aspect of Buddhism was equality. Okay, there was no caste discrimination and there was no gender discrimination. In case of Hinduism, there was a caste discrimination as well as gender discrimination. So he has made an attempt to reform, but when he thought that it was not able to reform, so therefore he came out of the fold and embraced the Buddhism. Later on, Hindu code bill was also passed, that under the leadership of Nehru, but still it was not the way the Ambedkar wanted. Okay, so we have different Hindu laws. Okay, inheritance laws, marriage laws, this law, that law, but still we see that there is a discrimination still prevalent with respect to property issue, with respect to inheritance, with respect to adoption, with respect to divorce, with respect to a number of other things. So that's about the part of as an reformist agenda. From the history class, obviously you should, if you at all quoting him, then as a point of a person who has influence in your life, then you should also need to know some of the historic evidences of his life, okay, historic timeline of his life, that say for example Mahad Satyagraha was there, temple entry movement was there, then he was the one who has burned the Manusmriti, because Manusmriti was a discriminatory Against women, against the, again, within the section also. Like for the same punishment, for the same crime, there used to be a different punishment. So on the modern lines also, he has, so some of the things you must know, that is, he was again a pioneer for the, that is drafting the modern constitution. So these are aspects that you should also know apart from these themes. Okay, this theme. So anything that is related with the upliftment of the weaker section of the society, you can easily bring the Ambedkar into the discussion. And if वो क्वेश्चन कौन सा था, मैंने डिटर्मिनेंट्स ऑफ एथिक्स में एक असाइनमेंट दिया था, टू सोशल रिफॉर्मर्स, to historical figures, to civil servants who have inspired you. So if at all you are writing, you should know a particular events of his life which has inspired you, so that it will help you in articulating the answers better. So what has been his throughout his life, how he has worked hard, in fact, in the equality aspect. Okay, and constitutional reformer भी fourth वाला लिख सकते हो. That is, in fact, the term protective discrimination and positive discrimination. So he has incorporated the principle of protective and positive discrimination in the Constitution. Okay. So that's why he's called modern Manu. Okay. Although it is irony to call the Manu, because Manu himself was discriminatory one. Yes. Constitutional, like drafting the constitution on the modern lines, which also incorporated the ideas of protective and positive discrimination within the fold of constitution. Okay, so socio-economic justice, the religious and the cultural aspect, education, and political side, that is a constitution. In fact, he used to say that political freedom is no freedom unless and until it is accompanied by the socio-economic. Okay, and that's so true also, because for when we say in different classes, I must have given an example. If a beggar is free, what the freedom means to him, unless and until his socio-economic, he has in certain avenues. Like in case of Amartya Sen, I have said this point. Okay, empowerment approach. Okay, empowerment he has related with the real freedom of life. So abstract freedom is when nobody is intervening in your life, you have a freedom, but there is no use of freedom unless and until you make the use of freedom in order to reach to the point what you want in life, and that requires a certain avenues and certain capacity so that you can reach to that particular point. Okay, so that is about it. That is about the Ambedkar. Now write the social reformers. Moral and ethical issues under social reform. Yes, social reformers. Next वाला theme था ना? Social reformers. पढ़ा दिया था? क्या बोल रहे हो आप? हाँ, ठीक है, कहाँ तक आ गए? Yes, social reformers में यहाँ पे भी we are going to see the themes. Now we are not going separately by different scholars. Okay, almost all of them have certain common themes, certain common ethical and moral issues they were dealing with. So those common points that we are going to write. So write the common themes and issues, common themes and issues addressed by social reformers. Common themes and issues addressed by social reformers during 19th century. During 19th century. Social reformers कभी भी हो सकते हैं वो. ठीक है. Current social reformers एक दो नाम. हाँ, बेंजवाड़ा, yes. Kailash Satyarthi, okay. Yes. So social reformers of 19th century we are talking about. So first is obviously ending the caste discrimination. As was the point which are common to all. Ending the caste discrimination. Ending the caste discrimination. This was invariably one running theme for all the social reformers. Second is ending the gender discrimination. Ending gender discrimination and promoting obviously the women empowerment. So write some of the issues within the gender discrimination. Sati, okay, ending this practice of Sati Pratha. Ending practice of Sati Pratha. Then women's education. Women's education. Yes, widow remarriage. हाँ, ban on child marriage. ये child marriage करवाना चाह रहे हो क्या? No. Ban on child marriage, widow remarriage. Who was the person who was very pioneer for the widow remarriage bill, passing of widow remarriage bill? Yes, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Okay. Yes, then ban on क्या लिखा है? Child हाँ, yes, these are the any kind of women discrimination, but particularly the focus on discriminatory practice of sati, women's education, widow remarriage, child marriage, etc. Okay, so rest of the things are also, but gender discrimination, that's the thing we should identify here. The next is again focus on the modern education. Third point is focus on modern education. Modern education. In fact, they were saying that just the Indian and the traditional education is not enough. We have to also like complement it by the scientific and the rational education. Okay, we have to also need to learn the English. We have to learn the on those lines of like education which can increase the capacity, right? The education which can make the human beings rational. Education which can make the human beings rational and inculcate the scientific temper. And inculcate the scientific temper. Scientific temper. Scientific temper. So this is basically the holistic education they were talking about. Particularly their focus was the West is developing and we cannot afford to miss the chance. Okay, we also need to learn the science, we also need to learn the maths, we also need to learn the modern values, okay, values of equality, etc. In fact, the British education has contributed a lot in the modernity and the inculcating the rationality into the Indians, and in fact, in a way, it has also contributed for the creating the national conscience into the minds of Indian masses. Okay, this was unintended consequences of British education in India. Yes, their this intention was a very narrow, that they required certain people to help in their activities. Okay, because it was a British rule, so there were a handful of people which were there in India. So naturally, they required the assistance by some of the Indians. But then, obviously, when you teach and make the people educated, okay, they are rational and they can think about themselves also, and they understood that British Raj is not in the interest of the Indians. So that was unintended consequences which has contributed for the very rational thinking of the Indian minds. Yes, so these were some of the points: caste discrimination, women discrimination, education, and in general the aspect of the what you can say that the tolerance, okay, amongst the different sections of the society. So you can pick up any social reformer, identify different viewpoints, okay, see that what are the different points that has been considered by different social reformers. But these were invariably different things. There were certain revivalists also, but you should not like see to towards them from the narrow or the parochial perspective, such as this Arya Samaj was focusing on the Shuddhi movement, Ghar Wapsi. हाँ सर, सैयद अहमद खान नहीं सर, सैयद अहमद खान तो इनफैक्ट वाज अ मॉडर्निस्ट. Later on, he came under the trap of the Britishers' divide and rule policy. So Ahmadiyya movement, in fact, represent the modern component within the Islam. In fact, he gave the cultural lack theory that Muslims are behind because they are not modern, they are not educated. So there is a required thirst that scientific and rational education, they should learn the English. Later on, over a period of time, we understand that then divide and rule in policy, and then he becomes more communal oriented. But in case of social reform, you can give this Wahhabi movement and Deoband, these were more revivalist in nature, okay, in that regard. But here, do not write anything, there's a part of your history class again, because here we are more interested in like those values which are more sort of a universal and bringing the equality and the strength into the Indian society. Okay, so now write the last one, that is about the spiritual scholars. स्पिरिचुअल स्कॉलर्स एक डिवीजन लिया था. Spiritual scholars, yes, some of the names I think you have taken. Yes, Swami Vivekanand, Rabindranath Tagore, Arvind Ghosh. Okay, so these were the some of the people with the spiritual appeal, universal appeal. Spiritual scholars, okay. So write the common points for all of them, okay. The focus on the humanism. Focus on humanism. Okay, in fact, they transcended the boundaries, narrow boundaries of this religion, caste, and etc. So they were humanists. Humanist means all are humans, like something what the Immanuel can't argue that all are humans and dignity of everyone is important. So that's the one. Second, you can write universal brotherhood. Universal brotherhood. Universal brotherhood, which is reflected in the idea of, which is reflected in idea of or in principle of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Sanskrit word hai Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. What is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam literally? The whole world is one family. The whole world is one family. So obviously rest of the people will be brothers and sisters. Okay. स्कूल में आप भी स्किप करते थे क्या? वो ऑल आर माय ब्रदर्स एंड सिस्टर्स. ऐसे लगता था यार, मतलब प्लेज ले रहे, प्लेज ऐसे लगता था कि तब प्लेज मतलब अगर प्लेज झूठी होगी तो आदमी मर जाता है. फिर सोचते थे शादी कैसे हो जाएगी. फिर कभी कभी ऐसे लगता था अपनी मम्मी पापा ने भी प्लेज ली होगी तो इनकी कैसे शादी हो गई होगी. फनी थिंग्स. बाद में पता चला ब्रदरहुड ऐसे ही रहता है. ओके, मतलब काफी, मतलब ब्रदर से रिलेटेड नहीं है वो, ब्रदर एंड सिस्टर. सो इट्स ब्रॉडर आइडिया. लव के काफी टाइप्स, इश्क वाला लव, पता नहीं क्या क्या सॉन्ग्स भी आते हैं आजकल. यस, so universal brotherhood is reflected in the idea of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Yes, now right, the next, see the whole component when these scholars were talking also about the conflict in between. There was a time where there was a lot of conflict and between the East and the West, who is more superior, whether the Oriental societies and their culture is more superior, or the Occidental societies and their culture was more superior. So they have a very considerate view about the world, and they said that the West has progressed in terms of the science and rationality, and the East has progressed in terms of spirituality. So each one of the culture has something to offer to each other. So rather than the conflict, there has to be a confluence of culture. So write this point. The next is the scholars were projecting the principles of, or promoting the principles of confluence of culture, confluence that is meeting point, okay, confluence of culture against the or rather than conflict of culture, conflict of culture. According to them, West, that is Occidental societies, West, that is Occidental societies, have developed more on the lines of science and rationality, more on the lines of science and rationality, and Oriental societies, East, that is Oriental societies, East, that is Oriental societies, developed in terms of spirituality, developed in terms of spirituality. So both East and West has something to offer for each other. So both East and West has something to offer for each other. So there should be attitude of learning from each other, rather than considering East and West as antagonizing poles, or antagonistic, as an antagonistic poles. Okay, so there is certainly a common ground which can be found, that both of them can offer something for each other. So rather than for the confluence of ideas, okay, confluence of ideas is more important rather than the conflict of ideas, and we should offer something for the other. In fact, Swami Vivekananda has made a speech in Chicago. Okay, there was a 1893. There was a Parliament of Religion. Okay, World Parliament of Religion conference was there in Chicago. So he has articulated his views that what we have discussed, this universal brotherhood and the confluence of East and West, okay, humanism, etc., etc. So their morality is sort of a humanistic or universal brotherhood in that regard. In fact, this Rabindranath Tagore's very famous poem, "Where the Mind is Without Fear," okay. So that's here in there it is written, but then where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where the knowledge is free, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dairy desert sand of dead habit. उसमें एक line है important, where the world has not been broken into the fragments by the narrow domestic walls. So that line is very, very meaningful, where the Tagore is articulating, the world has not been broken into the fragments by the narrow domestic walls. So he was in fact raising his bar above the national boundaries and nationalism, and reaching to the level of humanism. Okay, so that's where we see that humanity across the borders, okay, all are human beings, and the world should not divide itself into the different narrow compartments by this narrow domestic world. So there should be an cross-culture flow of values and ideas, and everybody has something to offer. And the principle of toleration and this attitude of learning from each other will bring more peace, stability, and harmony to the international world. Okay, so that's about the common aspect of this. Yes, spiritual scholars, or for that matter, this scholars with the universal appeal. अरविंद घोष कहाँ है मॉडर्न इंडिया में? क्या पढ़ा था आपने? Extremist, yes. So how we are bringing the extremist into the paper 4? Okay, if he was an extremist, moderates and extremist, obviously he was an extremist. In fact, he was a very, very fervent extremist, not a moderate extremist. Extremist may be extremist. In fact, he was tried under the Kanpur conspiracy case, and later on, lot many things have happened to it. Finally, he has realized my role is not there in paper 4, so I should abandon the extremism and so make myself relevant. In fact, that is the thing. He has left his political ideology of extremism, and then his ideological journey begin with the humanism. So there is a Auroville pata hai? Puducherry mein there is a place, a village sort of experiment of its kind, very unique of its kind, where you have no religion, no caste, no creed, nothing. There is no tag on you. You belong to which caste, which religion, even not in citizenship. These are all people belong to, they are just a human. So Auroville is a sort of a village experiment. Usme jo hai, people from across the world come there, and all are considered humans once you go into that city. So you are not a citizen of any country, no religion, no caste, nothing. So this experiment was on the idea of this Arvindo. Okay, so he was more a spiritual and humanist scholar in the later part of his life, although to start with he was a fervent extremist, okay, during the freedom struggle. So that's why nahi to confusion ho jayega, there is extremism, and he has always talked about tum mujhe khoon do types language, and how he should be in a part of particularly the spiritual scholar. So this is the ideational and spiritual journey of Aurobindo. That's why we have included. So this is by and large the Indian moral philosophies and Indian moral things. Again, as I have said, this is just a cursory view that this is how you have to approach. So depending of any scholar, any particular thinker you come across, you can certainly have all the liberty to articulate other viewpoints also. Okay, so we have done in the form of religious philosophy, some important scholars. Again, you can write as many scholars who have inspired. We have taken some social reformers and their particular theme. Again, you can pick up specific thing also. And then some of the universal people with the universal appeal. I would say that, in fact, do not go into too much of specificity, because then again it leads to a particularism, that justifying one thing over the other, and unnecessarily you will run the risk, because you never know that examiner belong to which sort of ideology, and he, from his point of view, which scholar, which thinker is more apt. So therefore, something which the themes which are already acceptable, universal, less controversial. Okay, so pick up those themes, and when the question is asked very specific, then and then only you reach to the domain of specificity. Many a times it happens that examiner do not know if you are being too research oriented and bringing a very minute details. So examiner may not be knowing some particular religion and some particular concepts you are trying to invoke the idea. It becomes a very difficult for understanding also. And please balance everywhere. Okay, just do not sound from one particular angle or the other. So that's the idea. So there has to be a balanced approach. So this is how you have to prepare the Indian moral philosophers. In fact, that's the end of our moral thinkers also. Okay, so please look through this, otherwise we have to start the next thing. If you have any doubt, whatever has been done so far from the thinker's point of view, please ask. Yes. No, not at all necessary. Not at all necessary. If again, if it is coming very naturally, you can write. In fact, even if you are writing the catchphrase without quoting a scholar, it's fine. Okay. Also, ये ऐसे होता है कि बॉलीवुड के सॉन्ग्स बेकार में, मतलब स्टोरी चल रही है, अब कुछ ना कुछ डालना है, इसलिए इंजेक्ट कर दो. So that does not look very good. That becomes like a mechanical insertion of a thinker when it does not come very naturally. So what is ultimately required is natural flow of the answer. उस natural flow में अगर आप inject कर सकते हो तो that is fine. But I don't think so कि what has been discussed in the class. That's why I have kept it very simple. I think this much what has been taught in the class, you can easily able to reproduce. There should not be any problem. Beyond these things, obviously, how much efforts you can do, that is up to you. But believe me, it's not at all required. It's not mandatory. Okay. Ultimately, how much closely you are addressing your answer to the question, that fetches you the more mark, whether you are addressing the particular question or not. Sometimes it happens the quote is haywire and you are trying to just somehow adjust into the question, so it loses the natural flow of the question also. But if it is coming naturally, so obviously you will get one extra mark also, okay, because it's provide a lot of weightage to what you have already said. Okay. Yes, any doubt, any question with respect to anything that has been done in the Western philosophers or the Indian moral philosophers? Any general doubt? No. Okay, right. The next, case studies and ethical dilemmas. See, we have now left with only one chapter from the theory part, that is emotional intelligence. But I am taking here a small break, and small break मतलब ये break नहीं है, theory वाला break, emotional intelligence नहीं कर रहा हूँ, because somewhere we should now understand that how the case studies are done, what are the basic aspect of case studies, etc. So from here onwards, we will mix up both the things, because this much of knowledge is minimum required to start with the case studies. So write the case studies and some general things you need to understand about the case studies. That is about ethical dilemmas. Okay, so case studies का एक basis है theoretical framework. That is, all the case studies are nothing but some other way they are the parts of ethical dilemmas. So right, in fact, this can be asked as a separate theory question also. Direct question also can be asked in this part. So write a question. What do you understand by ethical dilemma? What do you understand by ethical dilemma? Ethical dilemma. What are the different types of ethical dilemmas? What are the different types of ethical dilemmas? What are the different types of ethical dilemmas faced by civil servant? What are the different types of ethical dilemmas faced by civil servant? Question mark. Discuss how to resolve. Discuss how to resolve ethical dilemmas. Discuss how to resolve ethical dilemmas. So there are three parts here. The meaning of ethical dilemmas, the different types of dilemmas, and how to resolve. Now this approach is very important because most of the case studies you can reduce into a pattern of dilemmas. So once you understand the different patterns of dilemmas and broadly what are the kinds of dilemmas, it's very easy for you to approach the case studies. Because every case study is not very separate from each other. Once you have some theoretical framework of understanding it, you simply have to identify that your case study belongs to which particular type, and according to that type you have to go ahead with resolution of ethical dilemma. Okay. Now, write the meaning of ethical dilemma first. Ethical dilemma is a situation. Ethical dilemma is a situation where the person has to choose between. Ethical dilemma is the situation where the person has to choose between different alternatives, where the person has to choose between different alternatives while choosing right and wrong, while deciding right and wrong, while deciding right and wrong, right and wrong, or good or bad, or good or bad, good or bad. Full stop. Next, choosing from alternatives, choosing from different alternatives, choosing from different alternatives may involve choosing between right and wrong, choosing between right and wrong, or between two right options, or between two right or two desirable options, or between two wrong options. Okay, this may involve between two right, two wrong, or right and wrong. So right and wrong में right choose करना है. In between the two right, which is the most close right, and between the two wrongs, which is less wrong. Okay, so that's the ethical dilemmas. Now write the different types of dilemmas. Different types of dilemmas. Different types of ethical dilemmas. Different types of ethical dilemmas can be classified as follows. Can be classified. Different types of ethical dilemmas can be classified as follows. As follows. So, okay, you can write the first, that is a personal cost dilemma. Personal cost dilemma. Second is called right versus right dilemma. And third is conjoined dilemma. Personal cost dilemma, right versus right, and the conjoined. Now let's see one by one. Personal cost dilemma. See, whenever we see the dilemma, there will be obviously the two options. So here, one option is your personal interest, and another option is your public interest. It means that when you are taking the decision, some sort of personal interest is involved, and if you choose the public interest, okay, you may lose your personal interest. That's why it is called as personal cost. Okay, getting this decision is coming at certain personal cost or the personal interest that you are always looking into it. So this is in between dilemma between the personal interest and public interest. Now, let's see what are the different kinds of personal interests when you take the decision as a civil servant. Yes, what can be the personal interest? Appointment, corruption, yes, money, honey, these days to bahut zyada ho gaya. Okay, money, that is a financial interest. Financial interest, yes, promotion is also service conditions related. Financial interest. Second, you can write that they call gift. These days, people are not accepting money. Okay, gift, that is in bracket, you can write materialistic interest. Materialistic gain लिखो. जैसे बोला cash and kind. Okay, kind is kind, it's not so kind, it is unkind. But obviously it's a part. These days, like in terms of gift, okay, alcohol, okay, alcohol भी आ सकती है. Alcohol तो बहुत, iPhone, okay, iPhone you are saying. iPhone is yes certainly than iPhone, but बहुत इतना छोटा नहीं रहता है ब्यूरोक्रेट, काफी मतलब बड़े बड़े वो डिमांड करते हैं. हाँ, गोल्ड कॉइन्स, गोल्ड बिस्किट्स, फ्री ट्रिप्स टू पटाया. ओके, बोलते हैं कि फैमिली को 31st सेलिब्रेट करने के लिए पटाया जाना है. सो पटाया के लिए आपके घर में 5 टिकट आ जाएंगे, 7 रातें 8 दिन पटाया में जाओ. तो पैसे नहीं आएंगे, डायरेक्ट एयर टिकट्स आएंगे और होटल बुक्स रहेंगे. सो कहीं पे भी नहीं जाना है आपको मटेरियल गिफ्ट. हर दिवाली को बोलना है कि घर में जो है विंडो स्प्लिट लगा हुआ है, स्प्लिट एसी चाहिए, सिंगल डोर रेफ्रिजरेटर है, डबल रेफ्रिजरेटर डबल डोर वाला चाहिए. सो देयर आर डिफरेंट वेज थ्रू विच द थिंग इज एक्सेप्टेड. थर्ड इज यू कैन राइट favor to near and dear ones. Favor to near and dear. This is basically the nepotism component that we see. That is something extended to the family members. Favor extended to the family members. And in fact, you see that even if a person is honest here, that he is not accepting the monetary and material benefits, it is next to impossible for him to resist this particular aspect. Because when you become an clear then civil services, people are not happy for you, people are happy for themselves. Okay, people think that now हमारा काम हो जाएगा. Okay, and if you are really talking about paper 4 ethics वगैरह तो कोई नहीं पूछेगा आपको, फिर बोलेंगे कि ये तो काम ही नहीं करता है. Think of somebody from your family, आपके सिस्टर का कोई बेटा है, काम नहीं कर रहा है, धरती पे बोझ बना घूम रहा है इधर उधर. सिस्टर फोन करके बोलेगी आपको कि इसको लगवा दो भैया, तो आप बोलोगे कि नहीं, इंटीग्रिटी इम्पार्शलिटी ये वो. तो यू कैन नॉट रियली रेजिस्ट. ओके, रक्षाबंधन ही नहीं होगा घर में फिर. ठीक है. सो देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग दैट थ्रू आउट योर लाइफ देयर आर सो मेनी क्लोज एंड डियर वंस. एंड इवन इफ हाउएवर दिस थिंग, बिकॉज हियर देयर इज अ इमोटिव इन्वेस्टमेंट थ्रू आउट द लाइफ. ओके, देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ इमोटिव इन्वेस्टमेंट एंड देयर इज अ मॉरल प्रेशर. मॉरल अलग प्रकार का मॉरल प्रेशर, दैट ऑब्वियसली आप इतने बड़े हो गए तो घर में तो थोड़ा सा ध्यान रखो ही आप, थोड़ा सा बिरादरी में, ओके, नियर एंड डियर वंस में. सो दैट्स बिकम्स अ वेरी टफ थिंग. दैट्स अबाउट द एक्सटेंडिंग हेल्पिंग हैंड्स टू नियर एंड डियर वन. फोर्थ, इनफैक्ट इफ इट इज कॉल्ड दिस नेपोटिज्म जिसको बोला जाता है. ठीक है. फोर्थ इज बेनिफिट रिलेटेड टू सर्विस कंडीशन. राइट, बेनिफिट्स रिलेटेड टू सर्विस कंडीशन. यस, व्हाट विल बी इंक्लूडेड इन दिस? Yes, promotion, transfer, posting related with service condition. Service condition related with promotion, transfer, posting, security of job. Okay, finally, आदमी पहले service condition तो secure कर ही लेता है. If you are being transferred from this to this, ओके, नागालैंड में भेज दिया जा रहा है, नहीं बोलोगे कि कौन सा काम है करना है आप बता दो, पहले ब्लैंक पेपर पे साइन ले लो, नागालैंड मत भेजो हमें. ओके, छत्तीसगढ़ है, वहाँ पे मन नहीं लग रहा है, चंडीगढ़ आना है आपको, तो ऑब्वियसली दिस थिंग. सो पर्सनल इंटरेस्ट ये है, मनी. सो ऑल काइंड्स ऑफ पर्सनल इंटरेस्ट इज दिस 4 एस्पेक्ट. नाउ द गुड न्यूज इज, हाउएवर इट इज डिफिकल्ट डायलेमा इन प्रैक्टिस, in exam this is the simplest dilemma, because we know that dedication to public service, impartiality, this and that. So you have to identify there is no personal interest that should be promoted. Okay, तो वही लिखना है, impartiality, integrity, dedication to public service, selflessness. Okay, हाँ, empathy, compassion. हाँ, कभी कभी थोड़ा सा लिखते समय भी शर्म आती है खुद की कि ऐसे कैसे लिखना पड़ता है, until you make it, fake it, because it's all about utilitarian point of view of getting the marks. Okay, so that's so this dilemma are not, yes, कभी कभी ट्रैप हो सकते हो. यहाँ पे जरा इमोशनल कर दिया जाता है कि somebody from your this thing has suffering from cancer, end stage of life, almost dying, she has done a lot in your life, now this is a time to pay back. कितना भी इमोशनल ड्रामा करने दो उनको, you cannot use the public resources and public power for your private gain. Okay, so that cannot, नहीं तो वहां पे लग जाएगा empathy, compassion, इसमें भी नहीं दिखाऊंगा तो कहाँ दिखाऊंगा. Okay, so no. Okay, personal, that, and personal is not you as an individual. Family भी personally है और दोस्त भी personal है और बाकी भी personally है. मतलब ठीक है, सो नो, तो बोलोगे कि पराया लग रहा था, हमने पर्सनल बना दिया, ठीक है. So this is resolved. You have to always select the public interest. Now come to the little bit more difficult. Here there are two cases, that is right versus right dilemma. As the name itself writes something about this, right versus right dilemma. The dilemma which involves choosing between two desirable values, dilemma which involve choosing between two desirable values which are conflicting with each other, which are conflicting with each other. Now, conflicting with each other, it means that you can only keep one. If it is complementary, so obviously there will not be a problem. You can choose in one case. It means that, see, there are two desirable things here. That's why it is called right versus right. Write an example. Choosing between the impartiality and empathy, or impartiality, or it is also called as objectivity. So can you understand that how it is conflicting? How it is conflicting? What's the definition of impartiality and objectivity? Yes, you should be rule based. Merit should be the criteria. It may be a weaker section, and how will you extend an empathy? So if you are objective, rule based, merit based, so you can never be a democratic, or for that matter, empathy and compassion will not be there. And if you are going for empathy, then you are diluting the objectivity. And we have been told that both the things are desirable. So this is a right versus right dilemma, or the dilemma, what we say, that is where the choosing between the two desirable values which are conflicting with each other. So one example is impartiality with empathy. Second, you may say that development versus environment. Broadly, we are saying environmental value, development versus environmental value. Okay, so now how to resolve and how to write the answer in such cases. See, the thing is, first, the ideal answer or the attempt should be made to balance. In many of the cases, it is quite possible to make the balance also when they are not mutually exclusive. Like say, for example, in development and environment, can you balance? Yes, sustainable development. You can say that we can adopt the green technologies as a means for development. So here, the first, your ideal attempt should be like balancing both the values and not leaving one at the cost of the other, because both the values are desirable values, and therefore both the values are required to be articulated. But may not be possible in all the case studies, because sometimes they are mutually exclusive event. Okay, if you choose one, you have to leave second, or if you have to choose the second, you have to leave one. Now in such cases, depending upon the case study you have to choose, there will be certain hints within the case study. So on the basis of those hints, you can choose one, but at the same time, whatever you are choosing, do not completely outrightly reject the second is wrong. So put some lines on that also. The second value is equally desirable, but in this particular case, I am going with A option or whatever the option is, and then say that the second value desirable, and I will try to resolve this particular value in some other way. Okay, so that is how you should be considerate rather than rejecting both the values simultaneously. So the ideal is transfer, balance it, find some third way approach, or just generally say the out of the box solution and sort of thing. And if it is not, then settle with one, and then also have a considerate view about the second also. Okay. Now, third dilemma is a conjoint dilemma. Conjoint is nothing, there is nothing like to be explained. It's a combination of 1 and 2. 1 and 2 is that this first and the second type, type 1 and type 2 into a one. Type 1 and type 2 dilemmas. That's why it is called as conjoint, where there is a personal cost dilemma also, and there is a right versus right dilemma also in a single situation. How this, let's say an example, hypothetical situation. Let's say one vacancy has to be filled. Okay, you have to like appoint or recruit one person. Let's say you have to recruit one woman for a post. Now there are 4 women, A, B, C, D. Okay, the merit of A, this is the merit criteria. A is more meritorious than B, C, and D. Okay, so this is a merit criteria. And you have to choose one person for the post. Now, in addition to this, you have been told that B is a widow who has lost her husband in a recent accident, and she has 2 kids. The husband who has lost in the recent accident is a breadwinner of the family, so there is a financial insecurity for the family. The kids cannot be sent to the schools because of the financial insecurity, etc., etc. Okay. The C is a daughter of a politician who is your superior, and he is calling you and telling, please choose the C. Otherwise, you can land in hell also. Okay. So, and D is a woman who is having a sort of a direct meet with you or through the agent and saying that 1 crore rupees I can offer. Okay, or 50 lakh और 5 कितना भी करोड़ बोल लो, ठीक है, मिलेगा तो नहीं है यहाँ पे, hypothetically है. So this is, if we see, right versus right, and this is a personal cost dilemma. Now practice में तो वैसे ये हट ही जाता है, लेकिन यहाँ पे जो है ये हटाना है पहले. Okay, because we know that dedication to public service वगैरह वगैरह. अदरवाइज यहाँ पे सोचोगे कि एक ही बार लेके घर पे ही बैठ जाऊं या फिर थोड़ा थोड़ा फिर लेता रहूं. ठीक है. यहाँ पे ऐसा है कि पर्सनल कॉस्ट डायलेमा है, तो नो, दिस कॉम्प्रोमाइजेस द मेरिट एक्सेट्रा, क्रेडिबिलिटी ऑफ द ऑफिस, मिसयूज ऑफ पावर, एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा, करप्शन. A and B में now you can in fact go with A also. Okay, and then say that okay, I will try to arrange some other way that the financial resources for the women be, okay, in the form of, say for example, I will see that if there any pension available for the widow's pension scheme, and I can fit, or maybe I will call and ring some NGO who is helping for the such people who are in the disadvantaged position, or maybe sending the people into the school. Okay, you make some financial arrangement for the children. So here you have settled the answer in either of the two. Say for example, impartiality and merit, and objectivity should be the criteria, because efficiency of your particular office should not be hampered, but at the same time you have been considerate about the empathy as a component also. So this is how you have to go about. So conjoint dilemma kuch naya nahi hai, it's just a combination of two. So strictly speaking, these are the two important types of dilemmas, that is right versus right and personal cost dilemma. Now the point is, if the question has the types of dilemmas, how you have to write, you should not write this personal cost and right versus right, you can. But the thing is, financial interest versus public interest, okay, this way. Material interest or material gain versus public interest. Then favoritism or favor to the family members versus public interest. Benefits of service condition versus public interest. Because the question is, what are the different types and situations? So these are the different situations that you face. Then you write the next one is, that is a impartiality versus empathy. Then development versus environment. So this is how the, or you may classify personal cost करके उसके अंदर ऐसे ऐसे लिखना है. Okay, give the heading personal cost dilemmas and give this heading and explain it one line in each case. Here you can write a conflicting and contradictory dilemma between two desirable values, and then explain 1, 2, 3 points. Apart from this, there are certain situations of dilemma Generally they are called, we have discussed in some other class, okay, third, मतलब just कहीं पे note कर लो, when different types of dilemmas there are, conflict of interest, situation of conflict of interest, that's also a dilemma. And fourth is dilemma for the whistleblower, which we are going to do in the governance class. Dilemma of whistleblowing, conflict of interest, and dilemma of whistleblowing. What is a conflict of interest dilemma? Yes, that is, in fact, this is very close to this personal cost only, but वहाँ पे जो है, you come under the situation where there is a primary interest and secondary interest is involved, and the situation creates such that you may use the public authority for the private gain also. Okay, there is a sense of situation where there is a possibility that you may use, say for example, I have given in this case of recruitment, if one of the person is belonging to your family and you are the recruitment authority, ये जो था ना ABCD, say for example C is your family member, okay, some other relative, and you are the one who is recruiting. So there is a conflict of interest. Conflict of interest is, on one hand side you should maintain the public interest, but at the same time personal interest. Now ये जो है पर्सनल कॉस्ट इन जनरल भी है, लेकिन कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट केसेस में देयर इज अ डायरेक्ट अपरेंट इन द आईज ऑफ पब्लिक, okay, people know that this is a situation of conflict of interest. Now we have discussed in case of conflict of interest that when there is a primary interest and secondary, this is a primary interest, choosing is a secondary interest. So in such cases, what are the steps? You should declare a conflict of interest, and second is one should recuse oneself from the particular act or the action or the decision. So recusing from the action and declaring the conflict of interest. So that's also one of the situation of ethical dilemma. And next is the dilemma of whistleblower that we are going to see separately. Okay, this requires at least a 1 hour of discussion where we are going to discuss it in the whistleblowing. Okay, so this is the second part of your question, that is different types of dilemma, meaning of ethical dilemma and different types of ethical dilemma. Now write the next subheading, that is how